All right, so you love to dance and you want to have more people to dance with. In today's video, I'm going to give you the tips and tricks that I've learned over the last 25 years on how to build your dance community. So just for some context, my name is Brian B. I live here in Louisville, Kentucky. I've been dancing 25 years. Our studio's been open 18 years. We started a West Coast swing event from zero. We grew it to 650 people. We've hosted 30 plus local workshops. I've traveled to 25 different countries and 30 odd different states teaching dancing. These strategies will work no matter if you're building a West Coast swing community, a line dance community, or a country dance community, or anything in between. These are the same tips, tricks, and strategies. Now, there's 4 pillars that you're going to want to build. I'm going to cover them all in detail, but let's roll them out real quick. You're going to want to have a local dance night with a beginner class, intermediate class, and a dance. That's the first level. We'll talk about all the details of how to get people there. Number 2, we're going to build quarterly workshops with possibly a local teacher or someone in driving distance. Then number 3, we're going to talk about developing a practice group, an unofficial practice group for your kind of hardcore people to dig into. And then finally, we'll talk about attaching your dancers to larger conventions or social weekends or competitions. So let's go back to building your local dance night. You're going to want to have a beginner class, followed by an intermediate class, followed by a small dance. Doesn't have to be long. And then ideally, some sort of community building where you go out and have a drink afterwards or a bite to eat, or maybe you get a bite to eat and make it very social. But let's talk about the details of this. You want to have a beginner class. Now, you might be thinking, I'm not qualified to teach that beginner class. You are, and I'll explain why, and I'll help you do that in just a second. But you want to have the beginner class first, followed by the intermediate class. That way, as your dancers move from the beginner level to the intermediate level, they can still come back and take the beginner class and help the newbies, and it also strengthens their game in dancing. One of the things I say here in Louisville is he or she who takes the most beginner classes wins. And when we had our highest level of dancing here in the studio, we had a beginner class followed by an intermediate class. Then you want to follow that up with your social dance, ideally in the same location. And then you want to follow that up with some community building where you go out to eat or have a drink before or after that. Now, how do we get people to show up to that? You want to name whatever your group is, right? I was in Huntsville, Alabama. They're called the Rocket Westies, which I didn't understand what Rocket Westies are, but apparently it's like the rocket ship capital of the country. So they have a name for their group. West Coast Swing Wednesdays. My friend April Prince up in Chicago. We've had classes on Sunday. We call Sunday Fun Day. So you want to name whatever it is so people know what they're going to. You could quickly rattle that off to people. Like, hey, are you going to Sunday Fun Day? Are you going to West Coast Swing Wednesdays? If it's a club, are you going to XYZ Club? Coyotes was our dance bar. So you want to name it. Ideally, you want to build a website for it. Super easy website. You can get a lot of builders, Wix. You want to build a website for it so you can explain to people what this dance is that you're teaching and trying to promote. You want to get a Facebook page for the group. Instagram page so you can follow people around. Whatever social media your group follows, we find in social dancing tends to be Facebook and Instagram work really, really well. A website, and then you want to be able to possibly, and I'll throw a lot of these ideas, all these aren't necessary, but you want to throw everything out there. I want to be able to have flyers that I can pass out, put up at the grocery store. Don't think just because you put a flyer out, you'll get a ton of people, but if you get one person for each one of these strategies, it will be helpful. Later on, we can talk about using Facebook ads and using Google ads to attract people to your classes, but a name, a website, a Facebook page, so with a calendar on it, with our, let's call West Coast Swing Wednesdays, beginner, intermediate class, and dance. Number 2 is you want to stay consistent. So you want to find that and put it out every single week. Even if you're sick, have someone fill in and teach the class. So let's cover this. 2 things about the classes. Number 1, who's going to teach them? You might feel if you live in an area that there's no dancers that you're not qualified. And I argue that you will learn, and I've learned more, and Megan's learned more by teaching than we ever did as students learning. So use the videos online here. We can give you a syllabus to teach you step-by-step which patterns you should teach in which order. There's different ways to do that, but our 25 years of experience have taught us that there's a pretty good way that works. So feel comfortable, go ahead and teach those classes yourself. If you don't feel qualified, you are qualified. If you have some in your area, fantastic, right? You might be able to pay them a little bit of money, give them a split of the door, but you want to build those classes and teach them consistently. Second thing around that is, and I've seen this happen here in our studio, we had someone that came in to do salsa classes. It were the largest salsa classes we ever had because this gal acted like a multi-level marketer and called all of her friends and begged all of her friends to come. They had all of her friends that invited friends, and she grew this big group just by working hard, inviting everyone. A lot of the people who get involved in dancing have this story. You know, Christopher invited me to dance class. I didn't want to go. I came with him. He quit, and I stayed. So any way that you can draw people in is put in the effort. You can do this systematically. You take an hour a week where you text message people or Facebook message people or Instagram DM people to just drag them into your class. So then once you've got a group up and going, you want to solidify that group. We found that students have to have something, dancers have to have something to look forward to. So once you get that group up and going, the group could be 6 people. You want to build it into a quarterly workshop. So that's where you might look at hiring a teacher from the outside, someone in your area, someone that's a little different. It does not have to be someone super crazy, high-level, YouTube famous that's expensive. You can find someone from a couple hours away, a local teacher that will come in and teach, and it just gives something different for a full day of workshops. So the way we would structure it here, we might have 3 workshops, a dinner break, an evening dance, off you go. Leave a lot of time for the dinner break. When you're structuring those day workshops, you want to leave a good amount of time between the workshops and not stack too many in. We find people put a 1 o'clock workshop and a 2 o'clock workshop and a 3 o'clock workshop, and that's 3 straight hours of dancing, and it's a lot for people to handle. We found that actually adding 15 to 30-minute breaks in between the workshops, 15 minimum. We found a 30-minute break between the workshops if you have a full day or multi-day event. Those work really, really well because now you can do the workshop, you have 30 minutes to decompress, ask questions of the teacher, practice a little bit, and this leads into the second thing I was going to talk about, socialize, right? You want to, a lot of us come to dancing because we need some community, some friends, so you want to help build that, especially in the newbies and beginner class. Let them know that dancing is tricky. Yes, West Coast swing is hard. Yes, dancing is hard to learn. That's totally normal. You're going to go through that in all these steps, right? So you want to baby the newcomers. One of the ways that I describe it is if someone comes in and I meet them and they're a nurse, I say, hey, Autumn, you're famous now. Autumn's a nurse, and so now that nurse has someone that they can relate to, and what you'll find is they'll walk in and they'll know you as the teacher, but then they'll also know Autumn, and immediately they feel much more comfortable. So you want to build that at the lower levels. Same thing's going to happen when we try to convince these people to go and spend an entire Saturday afternoon to dance. Some of us will do it because that's all we want to do, but it's weird for new people. So you want to build that confidence. Once the group is up and going, if you can get to this phase, you might have a few people that are really excited about dancing, and now you might create an unofficial practice group, right? This could be renting time in a studio. It could be at your house in the living room, where you go out, you pull out videos, you work on techniques or moves, and you get to nerd out on your own. That's another concept that, again, has benefited us quite well because instead of having to run an organized group class, we could just be off the cuff and social and grab a drink in between. If the location permits that. That will be very, very helpful. And then the final thing is you want to build your group into, let's say we have a group of 30 people. You might get 25 of them or 20 of them to show up for a quarterly workshop. Now you'll look at plugging into some of the larger events. Competition, it's not for everyone. It's actually what got me involved in dancing was competitive dancing. But as my career is done competitively, I find that the social aspect is what, and for me, the teaching aspect keeps me attached. So, but that is a valid thing for some people. Not everyone wants to be a competitor, but we expose our dancers here at the studio to that because I want them to try it, go through the nervousness of it, because some of them will find their future happiness and their goal setting in that. So that's the last pillar, is to build yourself into taking a group, even if it's 2, 3, 4 people, carpooling to the local events. So quickly recap, build your beginner classes, start with a beginner class, invite all your friends, name it, use Facebook, use Instagram, use Google. If you want to do ads for that, shoot me an email, I'll explain how you can do that. Have a social dance, socialize, treat your newbies really, really well, let them know it's hard, build to quarterly workshops, spin off a practice group out of that, and then take some people to weekend events. If you get that far, you're awesome. You've built a dance community. Congratulations. If you have any questions, you can totally hit me up, brian@westcoastswingonline.com, and I will share any tips, tricks, and resources to help you build your dance community.